Good day everyone. Today we will discuss the measures of variation, the range, variance, and standard deviation for the group data. First, let us discuss what is measure of variation. Measure of variation is a way to show how data is dispersed or spread out. Several measures of variation are used in statistics. The range, variance, and standard deviation are the key measures of variation or statistical values. A range is one of the most basic measures of variation. It is the difference between the smallest data item in the set and the largest. But, however, in measure of variation for the group data, getting the range is different from the ungrouped data. Because in group data, in order to get the range is by the use of class boundaries. Basically, to get the range for the group data, you need to subtract the lowest class boundary to the highest class boundary. How to get the class boundaries for group data? Using the given data, get the class boundaries by subtracting 0.5 to the lower class limits of the scores and then adding 0.5 to the higher class limits. Second thing to do after finding the class boundaries, look for the highest and the lowest class boundaries. Then, find the range by subtracting the lowest class boundary to the highest class boundary. So, this is my first example. Find the range of the given data. So, we need to find the range by looking at the lower class limits and the higher class limits. So, all we need to do first is subtract 0.5 to lower class limits. So, 65 minus 0.5 is equals to 64.5. 58 minus 0.5 is equals to 57.5. 51 minus 0.5 is equals to 50.5, and so on. And then for the higher class limits, we need to add 0.5 to each one of them. So 71 plus 0.5 is equals to 71.5. 64 plus 0.5 is equals to 64.5. 57 plus 0.5 is equals to 57.5. 50 plus 0.5 is equals to 50.5, and so on. And then next, here we already got all the class boundaries from the class limits. So we need to find and look for the highest and the lowest class boundary, which is the 71.5 for the highest class boundary and the 8.5 for the lowest class boundary. So we just need to subtract these two. 71.5 minus 8.5 is equals to 63. So the range for this data set is 63. So the next is variance. Variance tells you how far a data set is spread out. It is a numerical value and just to indicate how widely individuals in a group vary. Variance can be of either group or ungrouped data. To recall, a variance can be of two types, which are variance of a population and the variance of a sample. And then next is the standard deviation. The standard deviation is the square root of the variance. So as you can see, this is the formulas for the variance and standard deviation. So again, this is the first example that we used in getting the range. So we will use it again to find variance and standard deviation. So to find the variance and the standard deviation, we need to find the answer for these additional columns, which is the class mark, fx, x minus mean squared, and f times x minus mean squared. The first thing we need to do is to get the sum of the given frequencies. So we need to add all of these given frequencies, so we will get the sum of 50. So after finding the sum of frequency, next thing to do is find the class mark. So in finding class mark, we need to add the lower class limits and the higher class limits, which is 65 and 71. So 65 plus 71 is equals to 136. And then after adding these two, we need to divide it to 2 also. So 136 divided by 2 is equals to 68, and then so on. 58 plus 64 is equals to 122, then divided by 2 is equals to 61. 51 plus 57 is equals to 108, then divided to 2, so it will be 54, and so on. Same process to get the class mark. And then next, after finding the class mark, we need to get the fx. Getting the fx is just multiplying the frequencies and the class mark. So 3 times 68 is equals to 204. 5 times 61 is equals to 305. 3 times 54 is equals to 162, and so on to get the fx. You just need to remember you need to multiply frequencies and class mark. And then after finding the fx, you need to get its sum. So you just need to add all of this. 204 plus 305 plus 162 plus 329 plus 520 plus 297 plus 52 plus 95 plus 36 is equals to 2000. So that will be our sum of fx. And then after finding it, we need to find the mean. So this is the formula for mean. Sum of fx divided by sum of frequencies, which is n. So we just need to substitute 2000, the fx, the sum of fx, and the sum of frequencies, which is 50. So 2000 divided by 50 is equals to 40. So this is our mean. We will need it later. So after finding the mean, we need to find the x minus mean squared. All we need to do to find the answer for this column is by subtracting the class mark and the mean. So our class mark is 68 and the mean is 40. Same goes by the other values of class mark. So 68 minus 40 is equals to 28. Then after subtracting these two, the class mark and the mean, we need to square our answer. So 68 minus 40 is equals to 28, then squared, so it will be 784. And then same process, 61 minus 40 is equals to 21, then square the 21, so it will be 441, and so on. You just need to remember that after subtracting the class mark and the mean, you need to square your answer to get the answer for this column. And then after finding the answer for this column, we need to find the f times x minus mean squared. So all you need to do is to multiply the frequencies to this column. So 3 times 784 is equals to 2352. And then 5 times 441 is equals to 2205. And then 3 times 196 is equals to 588. And then 7 times 49 is equals to 343. And then 13 times 0 is equals to 0. And then 9 times negative 49 is equals to negative 441. And then so on. So there we get already the answer for this column. After finding it, you need to find also its sum. So add all of this to get the 98. And then next, we are now going to solve for the variance and the standard deviation. So as you can see, this is the formula for the sample variance. So we need to substitute. So the summation of f times x minus mean squared is 98. So we will put it there. And the n So that is the summation of frequencies which is 50. So subtract it to 1, so it will be 49. And then divide 98 divided by 49 is equals to 2. So our variance for this data is 2. And then next, remember what I told you earlier, that to get the standard deviation, we just need to find the square root of our variance. So the square root of variance is 1.414. So our answer for the standard deviation for this data is 1.414. So more examples ahead. So this is my second example set of data. So all we need to do is to find the range first. So this is the data. Remember what I told you, to get the class boundaries is by subtracting 0.5 to the lower class limit. So 45 minus 0.5 is equals to 44.5. 39 minus 0.5 is equals to 38.5. 33 minus 0.5 is equals to 32.5. 27 minus 0.5 is equals to 26.5. And then 21 minus 0.5 is equals to 20.5. And then we will get also the class boundaries to the higher class limits by adding 0.5 to each one of them. So 50 plus 0.5 is equals to 50.5. 44 plus 0.5 is equals to 44.5. 38 plus 0.5 is equals to 38.5. 32 plus 0.5 is equals to 32.5. And then 26 plus 0.5 is equals to 26.5. And then here we already got all the class boundaries. So all we need to do to solve for the range is by finding the highest class boundary and the lowest class boundary, which is the 50.5 and the 20.5. So we need to subtract these two to get the range. So 50.5 minus 20.5 is equals to 30. So the range for this given set of data is 30. So now we are now going to find the variance and the standard deviation for the same data given in the example number 2. So remember that we need to find the answers for these additional columns, which are class mark or the x, fx, x minus mean squared, and then f times x minus mean squared. So the first thing we need to do is to get the sum of the given frequencies. So add all of them. 3 plus 5 plus 8 plus 9 plus 5 is equals to 30. So this is our sum for the frequencies. And then find now for the class mark or the x. So to find the class mark, we need to add the class limits, the higher and the lowest class limits. So 45 plus 50 is equals to 95, and then divide it by 2. So 95 divided by 2 is equals to 47.5. And then the second given data set is 39 plus 44 is equals to 83. Then divided by 2 is equals to 41.5. Then the third is 33 plus 38 is equals to 71. Then divided by 2 is equals to 35.5, and so on. And then after the class mark, you need to find for the fx. So remember what I told you, you just need to multiply the frequencies and the class mark. So 3 times 47.5 is equals to 142.5. And then 5 times 41.5 is equals to 207.5. Then 8 times 35.5 is equals to 284. And then 9 times 29.5 is equals to 265.5. And then 5 times 23.5 is equals to 117.5. So after finding the answers for the fx, you need to get its sum. So 142.5 plus 207.5 plus 284 plus 265.5 plus 117.5 is equals to 1017. So that will be our summation of fx. So again, substitute your answers to the formula of the mean. So 1017 divided by 30 is equals to 33.9. So this will be our mean for this data. So after solving for the mean, we need to get the x minus mean squared. So remember that you need to subtract the class mark and the mean. And then after subtracting, you need to square your answer to get your answer for this column. So 47.5 minus 33.9 is equals to 13.6, and then squared, so it will be 184.96. And then 41.5 minus 33.9 is equals to 7.6, then squared, so it will be 57.76. And then 35.5 minus 33.9 is equals to 1.6, then squared, so it will be 2.56, and then so on. So after finding the answers for this column, we are now going to solve for f times x minus mean squared. So just multiply the frequencies and the answers for this column. So 3 times 184.96 is equals to 554.88. And then 5 times 57.76 is equals to 288.8. And then 8 times 2.56 is equals to 20.48, and then so on. So after finding the answers for that column, you need to get its sum. So 554.88 plus 288.8 plus 20.48 plus 174.24 plus 540.8 is equals to 1579.2. So that will be our summation of f times x minus mean squared. So we are now going to solve for the variance. So this is again a sample formula. So just substitute your answers. So 1579.2 divided by 30, which is the summation of frequencies, minus 1, so it will be 29. Then 1579.2 divided by 29 is equals to 54.45. So that will be our variance for this data. And then solve for the standard deviation. Remember, you just need to square root your variance answer. So the square root of 54.45 is 7.38. So our standard deviation for this data set is 7.38. And then here's my third example data set. So we need to find for the range. So this is the lower class limits. We need to subtract 0.5 to each one of them. 32 minus 0.5 is equals to 31.5. 26 minus 0.5 is equals to 25.5. And then 20 minus 0.5 is equals to 19.5, and then so on. Then this is the higher class limits. So we need to add 0.5 to each one of them. 37 plus 0.5 is equals to 37.5. 31 plus 0.5 is equals to 31.5, and then so on. Then look for the highest and the lowest class boundary. So the highest class boundary is 37.5 and the lowest class boundary is 1.5. So subtract these two, the highest and the lowest, which is 37.5 minus 1.5 is equals to 36. So the range for this given data set is 36. And then we are still using the same data. So we are now going to find the variance and the standard deviation. So remember this for additional columns, which are the class mark, fx, x minus mean squared, and the f times x minus mean squared. So you need to get the sum of the given frequencies. 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2 is equals to 20. So that will be our summation of F. And then solve for the class mark by adding the higher and the lower class limits and then dividing it by 2. So 32 plus 37 is equals to 69 divided by 2 is equals to 34.5. And then 26 plus 31 is equals to 57 divided by 2 is equals to 28.5. And then 20 plus 25 is equals to 45 divided by 2 is equals to 22.5, and then so on. And then solve for the fx. So you need to multiply the frequencies and the class mark. So 4 times 34.5 is equals to 138. Then 5 times 28.5 is equals to 142.5. Then 3 times 22.5 is equals to 67.5. And then so on. You just need to remember for getting the fx is you need to multiply the frequencies and the class mark. Then after finding the answers for fx, you need to get its sum. So 138 plus 142.5 plus 67.5 plus 66 plus 21 plus 9 is equals to 444. So 444 is our summation of fx. So after finding the summation of fx, we are now going to solve for mean. So again, you just need to substitute your answers to the given formula for the mean. So the summation of fx will be 444 and then divided by 20, which is the summation of frequencies. So 444 divided by 20 is equals to 22.2. So 22.2 will be our mean for this data. Then after solving for the mean, we are now going to continue finding the other additional columns, which is x minus mean squared. So you just need to subtract the class mark and the mean and then square your answer. So 34.5 minus 22.2 is equals to 12.3 and then squared, so it will be 151.29. And then 28.5 minus 22.2 is equals to 6.3 and then squared, so it will be 39.69. Then 22.5 minus 22.2 is equals to 0.3 and then squared, so it will be 0.09, and then so on. You just need to remember after subtracting the class mark and the mean, you need to square your answer. And then so after finding the answer for this column, we are now going to find the f times x minus mean squared. So multiply the frequencies and the x minus mean squared. So 4 times 151.29 is equals to 605.16. And then 5 times 39.69 is equals to 198.45. Then 3 times 0.09 is equals to 0.27, and then so on. Then after solving for the f times x minus mean squared, you need to get its sum. So 605.16 plus 198.45 plus 0.27 plus 129.96 plus 273.78 plus 626.58 is equals to 1,834.2. So that will be our summation of f times x minus mean squared. So there, we already find all the answers for the additional columns that we need to find the variance and the standard deviation. So Again, substitute your answer to the given sample variance formula. So, the summation of f times x minus mean squared is 1834.2. And then the summation of frequency, which is 20. Then subtract it to 1. So, it will be 19. And then 1834.2 divided by 19 is equals to 96.54. So our variance for this data set is 96.54. And then for the standard deviation, we just need to find the square root of our variance, which is the square root of 96.54 is 9.82. So our standard deviation for this data set is 9.82. So here's my fourth example. So this is the data for the fourth example. So to get the range, we need to subtract 0.5 to the lower class limits. So 92 minus 0.5 is equals to 91.5. And then 85 minus 0.5 is equals to 84.5. Then 78 minus 0.5 is equals to 77.5. 71 minus 0.5 is equals to 70.5. 64 minus 0.5 is equals to 63.5. And then for the higher class limits, we need to add 0.5. So 98 plus 0.5 is equals to 98.5. 91 plus 0.5 is equals to 91.5. 84 plus 0.5 is equals to 84.5. 77 plus 0.5 is equals to 77.5. And then 70 plus 0.5 is equals to 70.5. So we are now solving for the range by finding the highest and the lowest class boundary, which is 98.5 and the 63.5. So subtract the 2, so it will be 35. So 35 is the range for this given data set. So same data, we are now going to find the variance and the standard deviation. So remember this 4 additional columns that we need to find the answer for the variance and the standard deviation. So get the sum of the frequencies, which is 40. And then solve for the class mark by adding the class limits and then dividing it to 2. So 92 plus 98 is equals to 190 divided by 2 is equals to 95. And then 85 plus 91 is equals to 176 divided by 2 is equals to 88. And then 78 plus 84 is equals to 162 divided by 2 is equals to 81. And then 71 plus 77 is equals to 148 divided by 2 is equals to 74. And then the last one, 64 plus 70 is equals to 134 divided by 2 is equals to 67. And then we are now going to solve for the fx by subtracting the frequencies and the class mark. So 9 times 95 is equals to 855. And then 8 times 88 is equals to 704. Then 10 times 81 is equals to 810. 8 times 74 is equals to 592. Then 5 times 67 is equals to 335. And then, after getting the answers for fx, you need to get its sum. So 855 plus 704 plus 810 plus 592 plus 335 is equals to 3,296. So that will be our summation of fx. So after finding the summation of fx, you are now going to solve for the mean. So 3,296 divided by 40 is equals to 82.4. So 82.4 will be our mean for this given data set. So after solving for the mean, we are now going to solve for x minus mean squared. So just remember, you just need to subtract the class mark and the mean, and then square your answer to get your answer for this column. So 95 minus 82.4 is equals to 12.6, and then square your answer to get 158.76. And then next, 88 minus 82.4 is equals to 5.6, and then square it, so it will be 31.36. Then 81 minus 82.4 is equals to negative 1.4, then squared, so it will be 1.96. Then 74 minus 82.4 is equals to negative 8.4, then squared, so it will be 70.56. Then 67 minus 82.4 is equals to negative 15.4, then squared, so it will be 237.16. The next is getting the f times x minus mean squared. So all we need to do is multiply the frequencies to this column. So 9 times 158.76 is equals to 1,428.84. 8 times 31.36 is equals to 250.88. 10 times 1.96 is equals to 19.16. 8 times 70.56 is equals to 564.48. 5 times 237.16 is equals to 1,185.8. Then the next thing you need to do is to get its sum. So you need to add all of this. So 1,428.84 plus 250.88 plus 19.6 plus 564.48 plus 1,185.8 is equals to 3,449.6. So this is the summation of f times x minus mean squared. And here we already got all the answers for the additional columns that we need. So again, this is a sample variance formula. So we are now going to substitute our answers to the formula. So the summation of f times x minus mean squared is 3,449.6, and the summation of frequencies, which is 40, then subtract it to 1, so it will be 39. And then divide the 2. 3,449.6 divided by 39 is 88.45. So 88.45 is our variance for this data set. And then next is the standard deviation. We just need to square root our variance. So the square root of 88.45 is 9.40. So the standard deviation for this data set is 9.40. So this is my last example for our topic today, which is measures of variation for the group data. So find the range by subtracting 0.5 to the lower class limits. 81 minus 0.5 is equals to 80.5. 78 minus 0.5 is equals to 77.5. 75 minus 0.5 is equals to 74.5. 72 minus 0.5 is equals to 71.5, and then so on. Then we are now going to add 0.5 to the higher class limits. So 83 plus 0.5 is equals to 83.5. 80 plus 0.5 is equals to 80.5. 77 plus 0.5 is equals to 77.5. And then 74 plus 0.5 is equals to 74.5, then so on. So we are looking for the range. So we are now going to look for the highest and the lowest class boundaries. So the highest class boundary is 83.5, and then the lowest class boundary is 59.5. Then subtract the two. 83.5 minus 59.5 is equals to 24. So the range for this given data set is 24. So using the same data, We are now going to find the variance and the standard deviation for this class data set. Always remember what I've told you, that you need to find the class mark, fx, x minus mean squared, and then f times x minus mean squared to find the variance and standard deviation. So, get the sum of the frequencies. 5 plus 6 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 is equals to 50. Then, getting the class mark by adding the lower and the higher class limits and dividing it by 2. So, 81 plus 83 is equals to 164 divided by 2 is equals to 82. 78 plus 80 is equals to 158 divided by 2 is equals to 79. 75 plus 77 is equals to 152 divided by 2 is equals to 76. 72 plus 74 is equals to 146 divided by 2 is equals to 73, then so on. And then after the class mark, we are now getting the fx by multiplying the frequencies and the class mark. So 5 times 82 is equals to 410. 6 times 79 is equals to 474. 8 times 76 is equals to 608. 9 times 73 is equals to 657, then so on. And then, all you have to do after finding the fx, you need to get its sum by adding all of this. So, 410 plus 474 plus 608 plus 657 plus 700 plus 335 plus 256 and plus 183 is equals to 3,623. So, the summation of fx for this data is 3,623. So, we are now going to solve for the mean. So, all we need to do is to substitute our answer to this formula. So, 3,623 divided by 50 is equals to 72.46. So, the mean that we are gonna use is this, 72.46. So, we already got the mean. So, we are now going to continue finding the answers for other columns, which is x minus mean squared. So, getting the answer for this column is by subtracting the class marks to our mean and then squaring our answer. So, 82 minus 72.46 is equals to 9.54. So, it will be 91.116. 79 minus 72.46 is equals to 6.54 and then square, so it will be 42.7716. 76 minus 72.46 is equals to 3.54, then square, so it will be 12.5316. 73 minus 72.46 is equals to 0.54, then squared, so it will be 0.2916, and so on. All you need to do is subtract the class mark and the mean, then square your answer, so it will be the answers for this column. Then after getting the x minus mean squared, we are now going to solve for the last column that we need. So f times x minus mean squared. Now, all we need to do is multiply the frequencies in this column. So, 5 times 91.116 is equals to 455.58. 6 times 42.7716 is equals to 256.6296. 8 times 12.5316 is equals to 100.2528, and so on. So, we already got all the answers for f times x minus mean squared. So, all we need to do is add all of them to get its sum. So, the summation of f times x minus mean squared is 1,704.942. So, here we are now going to solve for the variance. So, again, this is a sample variance formula. So, substitute. 1704.942 divided by 50 minus 1. So, 50 minus 1, 49. Then divide 1704.942 divided by 49 is 34.79. So, our variance for this data set is 34.79. Then, find the standard deviation by finding the square root of our variance, which is the square root of 34.79 is 5.90. So, the standard deviation for this data set is 5.90. So, that's all for today, guys. I hope you guys learned something from me today. And I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation that I've prepared. Till we meet again soon. Bye! Thank you!